and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to continue the series of self-love. So this is the 5th video in the series. If you haven't watched it already, the first video was my journey with self-love and how it's related to confidence. In the second video I talked about self-love and mental health. In the third video I talked about self-love in the social life, so relationships, whether it's friendship or romance. In the fourth video I talked about self-love and the soul, or how to romance yourself. So I decided to go in this order because I think that these are the foundation of self-love, the basics. And in the next videos I'm going to talk about self-love in the body and self-love in grooming, or how to take care of your physical appearance. So these two videos are a little bit different, but I'm going to pause them for a while to get this video in, which is the 4 levels to self-love, or the 4 levels of self-love. So the goal of this video is for you and me to be able to look at yourself and see things the way they are. So have the courage to face things the way they are. So the first level is pretty much when you don't have much self-love. When I talk about self-love, I mean self-worth, self-respect, knowing yourself, valuing yourself, and having the self-confidence. This is essentially what self-love is, and I will talk more about it when I reach the final level of self-love. So on the first level you would have no self-esteem, no sense of center or self-knowledge. And you wouldn't know what you want in life, you don't know your values, your desires, your needs, your wants, your boundaries. You don't have a clear idea of what you really want. You might start to think about it at this level, but usually you are kind of lost. You don't know what your place is in the world. And you feel that you keep on giving to others. You are in servitude of others. And everyone else is having the life that they want, but you feel that you are underneath. You are in subservitude for others. And this is something you feel on a daily basis. You compare yourself to others and you feel that everyone else is there and you're not there yet. You might be getting close to one area of your life, but in regard to the rest, you are lost. And the reason you might be stuck in this stage might be first coming from external sources like family issues, friendship issues, you might get bullied. So all these might affect your sense of self-worth and self-confidence. And all of these lead for you to believe that you are unworthy. And this feeling really sucks. When you are stuck in this feeling, especially when you are aware of it, it really sucks. But what I want from you is to be aware of it and understand yourself, understand that you are in this stage right now, understand that you might lack self-confidence, self-esteem, or the knowledge of yourself. Understand the reasons that you are in this stage. Every reason is personal, everyone has personal reasons. So know yourself, know your reasons, and be aware of them. And that's all I want from you right now. So what I will be doing is labeling each stage with an archetype. And these archetypes, I think the first person to talk about them is Candice Oneida on YouTube, but I don't think she came up with them. I came across an author who talked about them, but I forgot her name. I'm gonna link her in the description down below. She has a book about this. But yeah, basically the 4 levels come with 4 different archetypes. So the archetype for the first level is the maid. So you can see how all of these resemble the maid. The maid is always in servitude of other people, but she doesn't take care of herself and she doesn't value herself as being the priority in her life. The second stage might come after you have realized that you are the maid. So you start to have these feelings that life is unfair and everyone is having their way and you aren't. So you want to get out of it. And this might still be in the victim mindset. And it's also in the low levels of self-love, but you start to get the idea that there's something that is wrong. Now the reason that this is still in the low levels of self-love is that you start to blame everyone else for your misfortunes. So you don't own your past, you don't own your baggages, you don't own your mistakes, and you start blaming everyone else. So you play the victim and you play the role of the princess, the damsel in distress, which is the archetype for the stage. In movies and in Disney, the princess is the one person that everyone desires and all the woman wants to be. But in real life, the damsel in distress isn't really what we want. We want to be independent, we want to own our lives, and the damsel in distress is not where you want to be at. So if you are in this stage, you would focus outwardly to know yourself and to fix yourself. The princess tries to be at the center of attention. She changes herself in order to fit in. She is loud, she sings loudly, she talks loudly, and she wants everyone to pay attention to her. And usually, as I said, it is because she was the maid before. It is because someone else manipulated her before, whether it's in her relationships or her friendships. And now she wants the revenge. She wants to take ownership of her life, but she's doing it in the wrong way. She doesn't feel powerful in her true self. So she is not embodying her authentic self. She is acting the role of someone else. So there might be some people who make you feel like you need to be stuck in this stage, but this is not on them, this is on you. You need to understand yourself. You need to understand your triggers and own them and change. So the princess doesn't do that. The princess just gets triggered. So she doesn't have a sense of inner power. What she does instead is she tries to be a perfectionist, or she becomes a perfectionist in order to love herself and in order for others to love her. So she would become a perfectionist. She would have so many high expectations, and she is always in conflict with reality versus expectations. For her, she is so beneath her expectations and everyone else is beneath her expectations of them. Her past is not resolved, or she hasn't taken responsibility for her past yet. So she might think that she already started working on herself in her past, but this is not the case because she is blaming other people. She might understand her past, she might know that the reason she is acting this way is because of certain issues, but she blames those issues and she blames those people in her past for her present, and this is not good. She might act in a selfish manner, or she might act selflessly, but both are not good at this stage, because when she acts selflessly, she thinks that she is acting that way, but in fact, deep down, she wants something in return. She's not satisfied. If her closest ones, if her partner or her friends don't give her something in return, she doesn't feel valued. So she is not selfless, she is acting this way. At this stage, she might also be independent. She might have her financial independency, she might strive for her independency, but she also blocks out any help. If you talk to her, if she tells you her story when she was a maid, when someone manipulated her, and you show her that you are empathetic, that you understand, or you try to help her, she will block you. She will be like, oh, I'm good. No one can hurt me now. I'm good. I have this huge wall between me and all other people, between me and all other problems, and I'm not gonna let anyone affect this. So she has this huge wall between herself and other people, especially between herself and her partner. So she doesn't allow her partner to help her or provide for her. Instead of collaborating with her partner, she competes with him or her. So they end up both feeling that their needs are never met, they don't understand each other, they are always competing, and she is micromanaging every single move her partner makes or her close friends make, because she needs everything around her to be perfect. She needs to manipulate everyone and everything around her to fit into her reality, which is in fact her expectations, her her image of what her reality is supposed to be like. If you have watched Gossip Girl, Blair Waldorf is a perfect example of a princess, especially in the first seasons. She manipulates everyone to fit into her reality, and of course, because this is a TV show, it feels exaggerated, but a lot of people do that. And a lot of people do that without them being aware of, and without other people in their lives being aware of it. So to summarize, the princess is not living in her authentic self. She is always trying to please other people. She is always trying to fit into this perfect image, and she puts barriers between her and other people. She doesn't want help, and she doesn't own her problems. She is not working on herself the right way. But the good part about the princess, in comparison to the maid, she wants wants to work on herself. She is starting to know that something is not right, but she still doesn't know how to deal with it. So a lot of us have this princess inside them, and once you are aware that this is not the right way to solve your issues, to solve your past, then you might be able to at least aim to be at the other levels. So these two levels are in the level of the victim, and they are in the lower level of self-love. But Maid is first, and then comes the princess. Now the next step is where you and I want to aim at. The next step, which is in self-love, immersed in self-love, is the queen. The queen has achieved, or is aiming at least to achieve, all these things I've talked about in my 3 other videos. So she is calm, she is self-centered, she knows herself, she knows her values, her desires, her fears, her boundaries, her beliefs. She knows herself, she knows her past, and she has the ownership of her past. She has a sense of purpose and mission in life. She takes cues from the inside, as opposed to the princess who takes validation from outside, who wants to please other people. The queen takes cues from inside. She knows herself, so she listens to herself. She listens to her logic and intuition. She knows what she wants, and she makes her requests clear. So the way she is able to communicate what she wants is very clear. Because she knows what she wants, she is able to do so. She is able to communicate. On the other hand, the princess, what she does is, because she doesn't know what she wants, she might start communicating something, but it's not essentially what she wants. And in the end, if the other person is doing what she tells them to do, she still wants something more, because this is not essentially what she wanted. She is afraid, or she doesn't know how to communicate what she really wants. The queen also creates her own rules. She doesn't abide by the rules of society, or the rules, not all the rules of society, but certain rules that she doesn't agree with, or the rules of her small society, like her friends. And that is if there are certain rules that she doesn't agree with. But if there are so many rules and so many values that are distant from her own, she cut them off. She has basically her close inner circle that she takes advice from, she values, and they have many values in common. She is powerful and inspiring, and she has compassion for her own imperfections. So she knows that her life is not going to be perfect, her world is not going to be perfect, other people in her life are not going to be perfect. So she has compassion for her own imperfections and for the imperfections of other people around her, because she knows that life is about ups and downs. Everyone has their own baggage, and she comes with her own baggage as well. So her life is not going to be perfect. She's not going to always look perfect. She's not going to always act perfect. And she has compassion for that. In my video of love and the soul, I talked about the way you can talk to yourself and the way you might be talking to yourself, which is you might be bullying yourself because you concentrate on your mistakes over and over again, and the way you talk to yourself might be so harsh. And this is something that the princess does a lot. And what you can do instead is imagine you are a little girl and talk to this little person with love and with respect, or talk to yourself as if you talk to your best friend, or as if you talk to your sister. So have compassion for your imperfections. So this is the queen, and you can see how she can be the opposite of the princess. So the queen is what the princess should strive to be like. Now there is another level to self-love, which is the priestess, and I think that the queen and the priestess are at the same level, so you can mix these two together and try to have qualities from both archetypes. But if you believe in spirituality, then the priestess is at the highest level of self-love. So the priestess connects with the spiritual reality and the physical reality. She knows, or she thinks, that the physical reality is not everything. On the other hand, she is wild and alive. She knows herself, and she has embodied everything that the queen has. At the same time, because she knows herself, because she has owned everything else, she is now ready to receive, and she can be childlike and playful. And I talked that the queen knows her boundaries. On the other hand, the priestess doesn't conform to the society's expectations and society's norms and society's rules. So in a way, she doesn't have boundaries. So she is wild, free, and alive, and she knows herself so much that she is able to reveal her true self sexually. So she is able to connect this area to the spiritual area. In this way, she is able to combine the physical reality and the spiritual reality at the same time. So she is very true to herself. She can surrender. She can surrender to the flow of life, and she is very playful. She knows that life is not serious. She knows herself. She knows that she is so small in comparison to life itself, that her issues are so small. Although she takes them into consideration, she knows them, she knows her baggage. As I said, she is what the queen is, and more so, she is able to relax, receive, and be a childlike. So these two levels, so the queen and the priestess, what they have in common is that they know their baggage, they own their past, they own their mistakes, they don't blame other people, they accept help, they surrender to the flow of life, they have worked on themselves or they are working on themselves. But usually in most of her areas of life, the priestess has already worked on them and she is good with herself. So they don't get triggered. There might be some external things that can trigger them, but they pay attention to them and they don't let them trigger them. They don't act according to these triggers. They take a moment to assess the situation and they own their actions. So they don't deflect their insecurities and their bad attitudes or their bad behavior onto others, and they don't deflect these triggers onto others. They just own them and work on them alone. And they both are influential and they are self-full, not selfless. This is something that Candice Oneida has said. For me, the way I take it is that in our society we value, or we think that we value people who are selfless. But as Joey was telling Phoebe, there is no selfless deed. And in fact, when you do something selfless, you are taking away from yourself. And you can't give if you are taking away from yourself. You have to value yourself first. You have to love yourself first and be fulfilled. So you have to be self-full in order to be able to give to others and in order to be able to do this good deed that seems selfless. But if you are doing something selfless, you are taking away from yourself. You are basically hating or degrading yourself. Not everyone is like that, but a lot of people do that. A lot of people think that they are doing something selfless, but they take away from themselves, or they actually feel that they need something from that person. Not now, but in the future. So yeah, these are the 4 levels to self-love. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new and you connected with a stage so you are able to know yourself better and work towards the upper stages. If you have any comments about this model, it is just meant to help you and it's not something very strict. You can take from it what you want. Don't get hung up on the terms that I use, the archetypes, because these are just a way to help you understand. So if you like this video, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it or have any comments, you can give me a thumbs down. But please make sure to leave your comments in the comment section. And if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And you can also share this video with others who you think it will benefit them. And I will see you in my next video. May you have a clutter-free life.